Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode. In the last episode we built this large crystal powered enchanter that's floating right behind me, and today we're putting our pickaxes here to good use, and we're going to be putting our attention across the lake, namely towards this small mountain where we're going to be building a mining entrance. Now in order to do this, we will first have to build a bridge to cross the lake, and that is something we're going to be doing over here in the distance here, where I've marked out 2 rooted dirt blocks, which symbolizes the points where we cross from and to across the lake. These were actually also there in the last episode, so if you noticed them, that's what they were for. So after building the bridge and connecting it by road to the rest of the road system, we're going to be crossing it, and over here just on the side of the mountain, we're going to be building the entrance. We're going to be adding an overseer office as well as a crane and several train carts to transport the things out of the mine. And I'm really excited to show you guys these carts because they took a long time to make, and I'm really proud of how they turned out. Now over here again by the enchanter, the first thing I want to do today is to just clear up some of these trees, because I feel like the first impression you get when going to the enchanter is a bit cluttered with all the trees that sort of obstruct the view of both the obelisks and of just the crystal in itself. So for example, a tree like this here has to go. Now we won't be able to see the impact that removing these trees has, because, well, the leaves has to despawn first. But we can expedite the process by sharing a couple of the leaves here. See, already I feel like it's a little bit more open and it's more visible to see immediately once you turn this corner right. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that actually. I think I'm gonna remove these 2 trees as well, and maybe even this one here, just so you can see the obelisk on the right hand side as well. The convenient thing about removing these small trees is, well, they're not custom trees, so you can easily plant them back if you decide that that's necessary. I also think I want to plant a couple of trees here, just to keep that secluded magical feeling and the first impression that you get once you round the corner when you go round this way. Now just a couple of trees like this would do nicely. I don't think this tree works either because it's a little bit in the way. I want to be able to see at least the obelisk once you come right here, right? And it's also hanging way too much over the road, so let's just remove that real quick. Okay, let's try one more time here. I think this is it. Yeah, this looks good. We get the crystal immediately, the 2 obelisks, the one in the back, and as we descend even further, we can see the enchanting table. And I'm still really excited about this fog effect here. I think it looks so good. So I think for the moment, this area is a wrap, and let's head over and take a look at where we're going to build the bridge. Alright, so this is where we're going to be building the bridge, but as you can see by the amount of tridents that are attacking me right now, we do have a little bit of a problem. Now where did he go? Oh, there he is. Let's see if we can get the trident. He's doing a lot of damage here. We didn't get the trident, but we did get a shell. So it's not all bad. So the bridge is going to cross from this extension of the land, where we're going to be putting a road here that wraps around. Now the thing is, I want to be able to raise the bridge a little bit, because when gathering materials I quite often sail through here, and I don't want a bridge that sort of limits that. So we're going to be raising it up a little bit, so we have a road that goes something like this, right? Where it steadily increases up and matches the height of the road, and then we can cross it with that. Now before I start explaining all the ideas that I have surrounding the bridge, I'll have to go get some blocks so I can probably show you guys on a miniature scale. So let me just head into the mines real quick and I'll be right back. So we're going to be using this gradient here, where we're going to be using some darker blocks the further down we go along the pillars that extend into the water. And then we're going to have lighter blocks once you reach above the water level. So if you guys were to go look at a local bridge, you would see some water lines on the bridge which stem from the ebbs and flows of the tide. So we're going to try to recreate that by saying that everything that is andesite or lighter is going to be above water usually, and everything that's tough or below is going to be below water, and then have it even more dark the further we descend down the pillars. Now I will sprinkle in some tough blocks above water, because usually when you look at a bridge, there are some slight variations above water as well. Now I've gathered some glow lichens here as well that we can use to further enhance the transition if we need them. Otherwise they're just cool to sort of give some faint lighting when you look at the bridge in the dark. Alright, so let's try to create a miniature model here of what we're going to be building. Something like this here would work, where we would have the water line going at this block level here, right? So we have the pillars being darker the further down they are underwater, and then they're going to be transitioning to the lighter blocks here above water. So that's what I'm going to be trying to replicate on a grander scale over here by the bridge. So we're going to be having an arch here first, and then we're going to be having another arch. That's going to be something like this. And then another small arch here. And now the reasoning for that, I find is pretty interesting actually. It's because I want to use the terrain that we've been given, right? So we have some space if we start the bridge here in this vicinity. We can have sort of a small arch here, and then a large arch here over the gap, the deep gap in the middle. And then we can have another small arch here that connects up to the other side. Now the big arch in the middle here is going to not only enable our small boat to pass through underneath, but also maybe some small ships that we could build to fill out an eventual harbor maybe. Now another thing I think makes building a bridge a little bit easier is building the bridge first and then adapting the terrain slightly to fit the bridge. Because the bridge is usually the hard part, and it's way harder to move the bridge one block if you find that you need that, compared to just terraforming the terrain a little bit and adapting it so it connects up to the beginning and the end of the bridge. Now with all my thoughts laid out regarding the bridge, it's time to build it, so let's get going. Alright, so the bridge is completed and I think it looks really good. It's really what I hoped it would be, and I think that the coloring we did on the pillars, especially at the waterline, is really nice, and it really shows like the damage and wear and tear that water can do over time, right? Now I've also connected up the bridge here via a path that goes up along here, and that then takes us over to the terraform bit here, which I've connected up to the bridge, which I think looks great as well, to this here. I have considered whether I wanted it to be just something like mud bricks or something like that, to have sort of a uniform color on the bridge walkway, but I decided I like the natural feeling of just having the path here continue onwards up over the bridge. And also I should mention that the reasoning for the bridge being so wide is that so we can have wagons on here that can drive from the mining entrance that we will build in a little bit over the bridge here and over to the windmill and also just the fishing hut here. So if we head over the bridge, we can just stop to take a quick look here at what we've built so far, and it looks really nice, I think. But continuing on here, I'm thinking that the path goes this way through the trees here. I've removed some trees so we can see what we have to work with, and then it heads up here. And right here on this side of the mountain we will have the mining entrance. Of course, a lot of things need to be done before we can build it, especially things like terraforming, because the ground here doesn't look that good. You'll need to make some slight modifications in order to ensure that it looks good. So up first is a little bit of terraforming here, and then I'll show you guys the vision that I have for the entrance to the mine, including where train tracks and stuff like that will be. So I'll get to it. Alright, so that wasn't really that bad. It was just a bit of smoothing out the ground here and clearing away a bit of the mountainside, so we have the entrance to the mine ready to be built. Now, of course, there's a few things to explain and also to do before we get to building. The first thing is to lay out a bit of the vision here. So the idea here is to dig out quite the tunnel, since the train tracks are going to be 5 blocks wide, and it'll look something like this here. Like the pattern you see here. So this pattern that I've built here is obviously going to be using different blocks, but also extending quite a ways out somewhere like here. And the train carts that are going to be placed on top of them are also 5 blocks wide. So we need actually to have quite the entrance, so something like this, where everything in between is going to have to be dug out, right? So that's quite a bit of digging that has to be done. And also on top of that, we're going to be building out an arch, sort of an overhang here, which is both going to be serving as the overseer office, which is going to be in there, but also having a bit of cover to protect from the elements as things emerge from the entrance. So now with that said and a lot of dirt blocks used, I have to go gather some materials. Alright, so I've gathered all the blocks that I'll need. And if we take a look at things, we can see I have a lot of good variants. We've got oak, spruce wood, dark oak, acacia, and jungle logs. And a lot of variants of the different stairs and stuff that you can make from them. We also got a bit of stone and a couple of miscellaneous blocks as well here. But all in all, I'm really excited to get building because I think it's going to turn out great and I'm excited to show you guys after. So there isn't really anything else to say at the moment, so I'm going to get building. So let's go. Alright, so I've built what is essentially the entrance to the mine here. And as we can see, we have the overhang completed. I've tried here to vary the blocks that I've used, because if I only use spruce wood, it would be a little bit monotone. But I think with the addition of the dark oak wood, to sort of add some discoloration into the build, I think it really takes it up a notch. I've also added the overseer office in here, so if we go up here, where we're eventually going to be having a path here, so it connects up nicely. By popping through the door here, we can just add the final piece of the decoration, which is a diamond. And yeah, we have the office chair here, where the guy can sit. I sadly couldn't make it possible for you to actually sit in it. Maybe a minecart or something else would have been better, but I think this does nicely. I've also added this, what I was thinking here was it was going to be sort of like a tapestry of different colors. Obviously mostly tapestries depict something, but that's a little bit hard to do on a 4x5 scale as we've got here. I also added in this item frame with a diamond in, just to sort of suggest that this might be the first diamond that has been mined, in this mine. So sort of a memorabilia. I also thought it would be nice to have the ceiling sort of take the shape that the mining entrance on the outside has as well, just so it adds a little bit of uniqueness to the ceiling, so it's not just all flat and stuff. And by doing that, we also avoid the crammed in feeling that you can get when designing an interior where there might not be that much space. We can also head out here on the balcony, where you can sort of oversee the operations and cargo leaving for the windmill and for the fishing village. But up next, I'm gonna be building the train tracks and adding some depth here to the mine, and building the entrance of course, where we're gonna be doing some light manipulation at the back end of it. So stay tuned, it looks pretty cool and I'm excited to show you guys it. Alright, so I've added in the train tracks, I've dug out the tunnel, I've added in some decorations here as well. And as you can see, especially the train tracks here, they sort of run into the darkness where they disappear. And if we take a closer look, I've added in a little bit of depth here as well to the tracks, so they sort of run a little bit further. So it might look like there's a wall here-ish that stops, but you can see that the tracks continue, so it's a little bit of an illusion that they keep on just going and it becomes very dark very sudden. I also really like the support beams that I've used here to reinforce the tunnel so it doesn't collapse. The idea is to continue this on in the future, but currently it seemed like a bit too tall in order for this episode. Especially given that I don't want to spend up my 2 good pickaxes here. I might want to get a work pickaxe or something like that before we eventually dig all the way through to the other side of the mountain, which is the plan that I have for this, with a couple of stops in between for the mine. I've also added in here the ground beneath, where we're going to be having the cart right around here. And we're going to be having a crane that can sort of load things from the wagons that are going to be on the tracks here and into a cart that can then take off and head over the bridge and towards the fishing hut and the windmill and all the other stuff that we might build that way. But the sun is setting and night is coming and I don't want to get blown to bits, so I'll get a quick sleep in and then continue on. Oh. So as I was saying, I'm gonna get a quick sleep in before this guy arrives. And then in the morning, I'm gonna be building the train carts and the cart here for transportation over there. And the crane. Alright, so the build is all finished up, and as I promised, I've connected everything by paths as well. Also up to the overseer office. So first up is this cart here, and it's not overly complex, but I went for an open back design, so we could lower down this crate here, and easily get the materials onto the cart so it could take off where it needed to go. I also built this custom crane here, where we have some counterweight, and it's able to rotate, theoretically, on this axis at least. So it can take materials here from this cart and drop them off onto this other cart. I added this counterweight as well, just so it would make sense that it doesn't just collapse over, because this is very heavy for it. So it has to have some counterweight in order to be properly balanced. Maybe there's even not enough counterweight, but I think it looks alright. And it was hard to add in more counterweight without having it look sort of out of place. So moving on, we have the two things that I'm very excited to show you guys. First, we have a normal cart here. And I've come up with the designs myself for both of these carts, because there wasn't really a lot of train carts that were so small. It is technically 5 wide, but in actuality it's just about a little over 3 blocks wide, right? And I didn't feel like there was a lot of carts that fit those dimensions. If you take a look at the underside here, we can see that there isn't really any trapdoors or anything that serves as a floor. And that's because in order to keep it compact and the way I wanted it to fit on these tracks here, it wasn't really a possibility, because otherwise it would have been too tall if we raised it by like half a block or something like that. It would have stuck out a little too much out, and it wouldn't have made sense for it to only then be 3 blocks wide, right? Let me just deal with this guy here. Don't blow up here, man. Thank you. So the closing thoughts for this cart here is that I've used grindstones for wheels and some lightning rods just to sort of connect the wheelbase and add a little bit of support, which I've done along with the acacia fence here. Now for this cart here, which is a bit of a special one, we have an up-down cart, which is usually manned by 2 people, right? So you pull this one down and this goes up, and then the other way around, and that generates force that then drives the cart. So if we go up here, you would usually have a guy here, right, who would pull this down, and then when this goes up, another guy would pull this down in order to generate movement. This cart does make a little more sense here, because we do have a floor for people to stand on. I would have added it for this one as well, but there simply wasn't any space to fit. But in any case, those are the carts, and I spent a long time with these carts, especially this detail here, because it was not that easy to come up with an up-down mechanism here that would look good on such a miniature scale as well. Now these carts are ready to head into the darkness after this one has been emptied to get another load of materials out of the mine, but we have a couple of more things to talk about in this episode. Now I've considered adding in some terraforming here as well, which is definitely going to be something I'm going to address in a future episode. I've considered adding a small beach here with maybe like a sandcastle and stuff like that. I'm not sure how thematically it would fit, but I think it would look good, and so that's what I'm considering for this area right now. There's an area here as well where I think there's more to be added. I don't think we should put trees here, because they would cover sort of the entrance to the fields and obstruct the view of the windmill a little bit maybe. So something like not too tall, maybe a pond or something like that could work. But if you guys have any ideas for this, I would love to hear them. Now with that said, I've done everything that I wanted to in this episode. Now I didn't really go on any big adventures, but I promise in the next episode we're going on a big one. So stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.